Hi lovely booktubers, I'm Debs. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Raina Reads Stuff. I am here in the book shack with the third of my weekly wrap-ups for my reading from last week, and this one is specifically Victober. I did my first Victober last year, which was fabulous, and couldn't wait for this year's event. I really enjoyed the group read last year, The Way We Live Now, which was my first introduction to Anthony Trollope. So I have started The Warden. I thought I would start at the beginning. I'd like to work my way through the Barsetshire Chronicles. I'm not hugely far into this at the moment. I'm up to page 80, but actually this book is quite short, so I expect to have it finished this week. I'm very much enjoying it at the moment. The other thing I have started, but I'm not very far into, elsewhere on BookTube, there is a group read of Thackeray's Vanity Fair. I've not read this before. This is longer, obviously, but I am enjoying that. Now, the things I have read in full in the last couple of days, well, since the beginning of October, I've been looking at Roz's challenge, which is about experiencing Victorian theatre. So to start with, the weekend before last, which was actually still the end of September, but who's counting? I watched An Ideal Husband by Oscar Wilde. I think this was first performed in 1895. The version I watched was from 1999 and starred Kate Blanchett, Julianne Moore, Minnie Driver, and Rupert Everett, and I loved it. I love Oscar Wilde's plays anyway. I read a few last year. I'm a big fan of Oscar Wilde. I think Canterville Ghost, which obviously isn't a play, is just hilarious. But I wanted to read some plays as well because I enjoy reading plays. And so I tied them in with two other prompts or optional prompts, group reads or whatever. And those were the two that are in memory of the two very dear booktubers we lost this year. Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf and Jennifer Brooks. And those prompts were to read something from their favourite authors, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Wilkie Collins. Now, I have an inordinate number of books that I have purchased from Dely Classics. And if you don't know these, I mean, a lot of these are on Project Gutenberg, but they collect together the works of authors and bundle them up in one e-package. And as you can see, I have a fair few of them. Now, what I like about these is, although sometimes you could find all the contents on Project Gutenberg, it would take you a fair time to track them all down. And I mean, if I look at this one by Marie Corelli, for example, in this is included all of her novels. Then we have the shorter fiction. Then we have short stories, which you can either look at in chronological order or alphabetical order. Then we have the non-fiction. And then we also have the memoirs of Marie Corelli by an author called Bertha Viver. So sometimes the complete collections include things you're not expecting. They might include biographies of the author. They might include critiques of the author's work. So I really like these. And in them, in the Wilkie Collins one, I found a play. It's called The Frozen Deep, and it was written by Wilkie Collins with some guidance from Charles Dickens. And it was actually performed first in Dickens' house, and Dickens actually played a part in this. I can't say this is the best play I've ever read. It certainly doesn't compare to Oscar Wilde, but it was really interesting. It was loosely based on the quest to find the Northwest Passage and the expedition which got lost. And actually, archaeologists are currently, and I mean really recently, discovering bodies of sailors who were lost in this Franklin expedition. The Frozen Deep is in 3 acts, and it deals separately with the people who've gone off on this mission, off on this ship, or a number of ships, the women folk who are left behind, and the tie-in there is that there is one character who is engaged to a man on one of the ships, but a man on another of the ships thinks he is engaged to her as well. So we deal with the menfolk, we deal with the womenfolk, and at the end they come together in the 3rd act, where the womenfolk have actually sailed to Canada to meet those menfolk who are left after this disastrous expedition. It was interesting. Like I say, I think there's probably a reason that it hasn't been staged more times than it has, but I really enjoyed reading it. Then I found a play by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and that was called Waterloo, and it was first performed at the Prince's Theatre in Bristol in 1894. And this, again, is a bit of a strange one. It's called Waterloo because it features an elderly man who had taken part in the Battle of Waterloo. He has retired many years since and is sort of decaying in this house near the barracks for the regiment he once served for. And his great niece comes along to look after him. And there's some interaction between him and the current regiment that is based at the barracks. Again, not the greatest play in the world, I don't think, but I very much enjoyed reading it. And it was interesting. I've read a lot of Arthur Conan Doyle, but mainly it's been Sherlock Holmes. It was interesting to read something very different from him. And it was, as it was for Wilkie Collins, the only things I've read are, the famous ones. The Woman in White and The Moonstone. I hadn't even realised he'd written a play. To be honest, I can pretty much see why he's stuck to the novels. Also, though, I'm taking part in Occult Detective October this month, and a number of the things that I have read for that also count towards Victober. And so far, I have enjoyed a short story by Sheridan and Fanu, which was called Green Tea. I say short story, it was probably a novella. It had about 10 chapters to it, and featured Dr. Martin Hesselius, who was attempting to solve a dilemma that a Reverend Jennings had, in which he kept seeing a specific apparition. This was first published in a magazine called All Year Round, and it was published in 4 parts, I believe, over October and November 1869. So it also counts for a serialization. Then what do we have? H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells from 1896. This was first published in a magazine called The Idler, and it's a story called The Red Room, and it details an unnamed narrator who is attempting to discover what monstrous thing is in the Red Room of a castle by staying the night in it. People have died in that room, and he is trying to find out why. He is seriously discouraged from doing so by the 3 members of staff who are in the castle. Everybody else appears to have left. And this is his story about what happens in that Red Room. Another Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, again quite late. This one was from 1899, and it was first published in the Strand. It's called The Brown Hand. It features a guy called Dr. Hardacre, and it talks about him going to stay with an elderly relative who has just returned from India and who is suffering because he's being haunted, and he's being haunted by a man whose hand he amputated. I liked that one very much. And then, 2 more. 2 from Rudyard Kipling, 2 short stories from Rudyard Kipling, both of which were based in India, and features a character he called Strickland of the Police. The first was called The Mark of the Beast. That was from 1890. And the second was called The Return of Imre, and that was from 1891. In the first one, Strickland of the Police and our unnamed narrator attempt to solve an occult mystery, and in the second one, the same pairing attempt to solve a real crime. Finally, I'd not come across these before. E. and H. Heron, the pen names of Kate and Hesketh Pritchard, wrote about a character called Flaxman Lowe, who also thought of himself as an occult detective. And I read the story of the Spaniards, Hammersmith, the Spaniards being a house, from 1898, which was first published in Pearson's magazine. I really enjoyed this one too. This one was, I think, a little more sinister than the others, to be honest. And there are several more, so I might read some more. I have other things that I'd quite like to read during Victober. I have this, which I'm pretty sure is a print-on-demand book. Heron, or Over the Range, and it's by Samuel Butler. It was written in 1872, and one of the reasons I want to read it is because Samuel Butler is linked to Nottingham, which is where I live. And Nottingham is a city of literature, one of the UNESCO cities of literature. I have a wonderful book, which, couldn't quite reach it, Exploring Nottinghamshire Writers, which is written by Rowena Edlin White, and it features in alphabetical order all the authors who have some sort of connection to Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. And oddly, they include people like J.M. Barrie and Graham Greene, who both worked here on different newspapers, I think, in the city at some point. Even if it was only for a very short period of time, they are listed as Nottinghamshire authors. Most of the links are less tenuous than that, shall we say, but all of the writers in there have a connection to Nottinghamshire. And Samuel Butler lived in Nottinghamshire when he wrote this book. The type is very small. It's not the best produced book I've ever picked up, but I'm very interested in reading it. Not sure what I'm going to do for the rest of Victober, but I have found a J.M. Barrie story that very heavily features religion, so I might give that a go. Anyway, those are my Victorian thoughts for the first week of Victober. Combining that with the occult detective reading I was doing, I think I've done a fair few. I'm keeping up with the reading of Mary Elizabeth Braddon's The Good Wife, which I am absolutely loving at the moment. I don't know why, but I wasn't expecting the amount of humour that's in there, and yeah, really enjoying that. And so looking forward to finishing that off. It's the first Mary Elizabeth Braddon I've picked up. I would be interested to read some more, but like I say, I've got so many collections from Victorian authors from Dely Classics that I'm really spoilt for choice. So I just intend to have fun with it over the next few weeks. I hope you're loving your Victober reading if you're taking part. I'll put all the details of the hosts, co-hosts, etc. down below, and you can check out their videos. Thank you for stopping by. If you'd like to, please like and subscribe. That would be lovely. Leave a comment as well about what you're reading. That's it for today. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Bye for now.